This is certainly unique. It's a momentous occasion, and I apologize I can't be there for welcoming our newest campus director and executive directors to the Indian River Estates campus. My name is George Bryan. I'm the Vice President of the Southeast region, and I see some familiar faces. For those of you who are going to be viewing this at home, I am sitting on a laptop facing the audience that was able to attend today. So very unique, and I wanted to just share a reflection before I continue. First, is Jeff Tyler in the room?
No, he's not.
He's not? Well, I'm going to tell just a quick story, and Wendy might recall this. But years ago, when I became the executive director at Indian River Estates East, it was 2007, May in 2007. And typically for these occasions, it's really celebratory. We would set up food in the lobby area and have a receiving line, and Scott and Erilyn and their spouses would be able to come prior to the dinner service, be able to shake the hands and hug residents and really spend some quality time together. Well, wind back to 2007, and I'm standing at the receiving line, and residents are coming through, and the food is just amazing. Fruit platters, meat platters, cheese platters, they're passing hors d'oeuvres, etc. And right in line with the receiving line is the cheese platter, the cheese line. And it had this just amazing Gouda cheese that was one of the last items before residents would come and shake my hand and greet me and say hello. So for about an hour and a half to 2 hours, time after time again, I would get these big hellos and hugs and handshaking with this aromatic Gouda cheese. It was, "Hi, George. Welcome to the community. It is so nice to see you." And I joked with Jeff about it for years, saying, "I bet you placed the Gouda cheese platter there on purpose just to get me that way." And I'm sure one day we'll be able to do the same for both Erilyn and Scott. We'll have a reception with the typical formalities that we have, but now in these unique times, this is the opportunity that we have to celebrate. And I'm joining you using technology, which is in a very timely sense, put us in a position to do so in my absence. And again, I apologize. It's Wendy worked really hard to have me there in person. And last week, ironically, I was at Westminster Village all week long, where Scott had thankfully helped me out in a time of need prior to his coming back. So I was there, and then fully intended to be there today, but just not able to join you. But I did want to share a couple of things with you. Indian River Estates has a long, rich history of being one of the leaders, one of the premier communities within ACTS, and in a manner of which being the first to do a lot of things, a lot of initiatives. And a lot of you would not know, we're very competitive administratively, but in the background, little things like the quality, quantity, or value of the newsletters. And Wendy is a big part of this, going way back. They're just being ahead of the others. I remember when we would submit reports or newsletters and information that we shared with residents, other communities would be urged, to follow suit. And that's in many different ways. That still stands today. And Indian River Estates, for example, was recently the first community to go into phase 1. And then the first to go into phase 2, and not only going into those phases, but the template submitted was leveraged or encouraged by other communities to use because it was streamlined. So Scott and Erilyn have been a big part of that. Scott has been a big part of the leadership on the campus for over 5 years, over 6 years now, and Erilyn for several. So I must say that I'm excited for this new chapter for Indian River Estates. I know, and many of you know, I've received an amazing number of recommendations for both Scott and Erilyn in writing from many of you. And I'm very articulate in enumerating the reasons and the ways in which you believe that these individuals were the right leaders for this campus. I think a big part, I know a big part of who we are as ACTS is the spirit in which we operate, the spirit in which we do things. Our intent is always to be as transparent as we can with operations, but in the way that we actually work with both residents and staff, we intentionally have built into our bylaws and our strategy acts of kindness, doing so with kindness. And I don't know of two other individuals within my region between Scott and Marilyn who don't just emulate everything that's expected within a leader of ACTS and now of course Indian River States. So that's common knowledge, I believe, because I've seen many letters and emails regarding the same, but also attention to detail and follow up. Follow up with you if you should have concerns or questions or ideas. So this time, this is exciting for me. This is a challenging time for all of us, for you as residents, and also for us administratively. Our world is much different, and we know our primary focus should be you, and it is. Lately, it's been keeping you and us safe, and we have other areas in which we can continue to go back to follow up with. And I know on a personal level, at the community level, many of you have those areas, things that you're aware of, things that you see that need to be done, should be done, ideas. Well, you've got the right people at the helm. And as we see the coronavirus still a threat, a very strong, real threat to us, but as we see our control efforts, our protocols protecting us, and testing, the availability of testing, widespread testing outside of ACTS. We were one of the first, really, as you know, in the area to do widespread testing, but now with testing and hopefully a vaccine soon. I know the politics are playing with us now with the timing of it, but we know a vaccine will come. But the time will come when a lot of what we're doing today will become some standard practice. Safety protocols will be standard practice, but we'll be able to get back to the business in which we're really trained for it professionally and what you came to ACTS for. I'm sure many of you are enjoying the safe environment that we're working with your executive directors to sustain, and Erilyn and Scott have been a huge part of that, but soon, undefined, but soon we'll be able to get back to focusing on the real task, and that's your satisfaction as residents. And with Scott and Erilyn at the helm, I feel confident that Indian River States will remain the premier community, not only in the Southeast region, but within ACTS. So with that, I'd love to invite anyone who would like to share for these two professionals. I know Wendy's still in the room. This is a unique template for us to follow. I'm not able to use visual cues very much. I can only see right in front of me. But anyone who would like to share a few words, I'd like to invite them to the podium.
Thank you, George. My name is John Rockhill. I'm president of the East Residents Association. It's been my pleasure to get to know Scott and Erilyn over the last almost 2 years. One of the things you may not know about Scott and Erilyn, and it's kind of interesting that George referenced the competitiveness between executive directors. I happen to have played golf with Scott. He's a very good player, very competitive. I happen to have been able to have played seated volleyball against Scott and Erilyn. My first opportunity to see just how competitive Erilyn is. If you don't know that, if you want to get into some kind of a game with her, any kind of a game, I think, be prepared. She will take you down if she gets a chance. So competitiveness is, I think, important for them, and it's an important thing for Indian River Estates. We are the largest. As George has suggested, we perhaps have been the best. I have no doubt that with these two leading us, that if we're not the best, we will be very, very shortly. We've experienced what I'm going to call the doldrums One of the things that I think my wife and I were very pleased with when we came to Indian River Estates was the many activities that we could participate in, seated volleyball being one of them, obviously, but many others. We haven't been able to do that for a long time. And as we've thought about, so we've all been in the doldrums, I think, from the standpoint of, yes, we've been safe, thank goodness, but we haven't been able to do all the things that we wanted to do. And we find ourselves that way sometimes in life, that we're down for some reason, and we just don't know how to get out of that. As I was thinking about what I was going to say today, I was kind of in one of those doldrums too, about what in the world am I going to say? But a lot of times when we feel that way, what we really just need is a spark. I'm going to start calling Scott Sparky. Because I think that when he walked into the dining room last week on his first day here, there was a spark in the room that had been missing for a long time. When Erilyn walks into a room, she's got that great big smile when you can see it, that there's nothing short of a spark coming from her, as well. So I think that's one of the things, George, I will say that you've done for us, and we appreciate that, is you've given us a spark, something that we can continue with and enjoy this place like we used to. We know it's going to happen soon, and we're confident that with these two at the helm, it's going to happen very soon. But welcome. Obviously, you really don't need to you've been welcome for a long time, particularly with Scott, since for 3 months we missed him, and we're glad to have him back. Erilyn, we're glad to have you back in a larger role than what you were serving before. So my pleasure, and looking forward to working with you.
Great. Thank you for sharing. I know that Erilyn is great on the piano. I'm looking forward to Scott's Elvis Presley, though.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim Schorner. I'm representing the West Resident Association. Our president is on vacation, and our vice president is sick today, so sort of like the Speaker of the House, perhaps. But I wanted to mention that, Scott, that I made a recommendation to George on your behalf, and I want to emphasize that what I really liked was the relationships that you carry on with all of the residents, and I wanted to emphasize that keep that up. That's a very good thing. So I'm so glad that they took my advice and brought you on. Congratulations.
Thank you, Jim. Any other residents would like to say a word before Scott speaks to us?
Yes. My name is Richard Lutz. I'm sorry. Yeah. Okay, can you hear me now? I'm sorry. My name is Richard Lutz. I'm currently the president of FLICRA East. And I just, on behalf of the board members, some of whom are with us at this particular point, I'd like to extend our welcome to you, Scott, and as the as the campus executive director. And we really look forward to having a close relationship with you with respect to FLICRA matters as they pertain to the residents in our community and also the community in West. And we think at this particular point in time, there's going to be a number of issues that are going to be brought to our attention that might need some work, so to speak. So we're looking forward to that relationship, and we really welcome you to the community. And Erilyn, I took a look at your resume. It is extremely impressive. There's no question about that. You are multifaceted. You're involved in so many different things over the years related to patient or senior patient care. You bring a dimension, I think, in your particular role at the present time that would be an additional benefit to the entire community and each individual within the community. And it's going to be very interesting to see the interplay and the relationship. I think there is a an air of optimism, tremendous optimism. I could feel it. You know, I've spoken to people, and everyone has had very positive comments with respect to your both being in your respective roles. And this is a difficult time, as we all know, at present, and we need somebody in a leadership area that is going to inspire the residents during the difficult times. And I frankly can think of no better combination than both of you in that particular role, or roles, if you will. And we thank you very, very much for being with us during this extremely difficult time for all the residents. It's not been easy, as you all know, and I think it will be less difficult as a result of your being with us. And I think with the help of God and with the abilities that you bring forward to our community, that combination is going to lead us on to a point where we're going to defeat this virus, and we're also going to get as reasonably normal to our prior condition, our living condition, than we can under the circumstances. And all I say is we thank you very much for being with us. We welcome you, and I thank you for the opportunity to say a couple words on behalf of FLICRA. And we're expecting something, you know, with the changes in the legislature and potentially the presidency. We expect that we'll be facing some issues that we're going to have to address, as I indicated previously. So thank you very much for the opportunity to speak to you folks, and it's been good. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Chuck Schneider. I'm the president of FLICRA West, and I certainly want to congratulate you both on the promotion and your appointments. You are super people. I think most of the people on this campus know you both because you've tried to allow us to meet you and be part of the whole organization. So I want to really congratulate you. I do hope, and George, I hope that the corporate in Pennsylvania takes a hard look at moving more toward a decentralized situation and a more participative management type situation. We've only been here about 4 years, and this is the third group of managers I've seen. I just thought I had the opportunity to say that. I really think we've been taken care of wonderfully in a very difficult time. So the centralized situation did work for us. I think the more decentralized, the better it works. So I do hope that there is some consideration to that. But again, congratulations, folks. You've done a great job, and I know you're going to do a great job moving forward. So thank you.
Thank you for the feedback as well.
Good afternoon. I had not planned to say anything, but because I'm one of the staff, I'm the only other staff member here, I just thought that I would. I've worked here a long time. I've seen a lot of managers, executive directors come and go. I've worked under Scott for, 6 years, 7 years? 7 years. And I just want to say he's a very compassionate person, as you all know. He's just wonderful to work with. He's very supportive, and it's nice to know that I'm glad that they made the decision to put Scott in the campus director position, and the staff is very happy about it. We're very pleased. And Erilyn, we have not worked together too much, but of course we've been on the same team now for 5 years, 4 years. And she's a real team player. I love that about her. Whenever we needed staff to, volunteer to do something with us for our big longest days or active aging week or, whatever we've had going where we need extra hands, she's always the first one to volunteer. So I really appreciate that about her. And I look forward to working under her because she's my new boss. So I like her a lot. But we are so happy that they're the team now that's going to lead us in the future. So thank you.
I'll go ahead, George.
Yes, please do, Scott. Thank you.
Well, I just want to first thank John, Jim, Richard, Chuck, Wendy for wonderful comments, as well as George, obviously. During this process, before I was chosen, I first interviewed with George, obviously. Then it went to Jonathan Grant, so a great deal of thanks to him, George's boss. Then it went to Charlie Coxon, Jonathan's boss, so a great deal of thanks to Charlie. And finally, Karen Christensen, the president of ACTS. So I had interviews, some short, some a little bit longer, with all of those. And without them, I wouldn't be where I am today. So very appreciative of them. So thank you very much, starting with you, George. The confidence and faith that they had in me, the confidence and faith that I have heard from so many residents, I can't fathom it. It just, I think back to, I've got wonderful parents. Many of you have met them. But confidence was something that wasn't instilled in me. It's like I had to earn it through growing up. My mom was extremely, and always has been supportive, as is my dad. But my dad was a little more difficult in showing that he was proud of us kids. So when I get it in large doses like I have in the past 7 years, I'll say, but in the past 3 months, it really touches my heart. So I'm so very appreciative of all of you for that. This has been a fairly long journey for me. I mean, we mentioned 7 years in this past August, so last month. But it started long before that. Back in 2008, in January of 2008, I was at a crossroads career-wise. I decided that I wanted to go in the senior care field. I had a lot of experience dealing with seniors in various positions. And I decided I wanted to go in the senior care field because I love doing that, taking care of their needs, of your needs. And I knew it was going to be stable if there was medical involved with it as well. So a common friend knew Charlie Coxon. And he said, Charlie was the regional vice president, George's position at that time. And this common friend said, why don't you reach out to Charlie? I think he'll likely spend some time with you just talking. I had no medical experience, no senior care experience, but a lot of hospitality experience in the senior area. So I did reach out to Charlie. We set up an appointment right here in East in the old cafe, and we spent an hour. I told him, I would love at some day to be in the position you are, but I have no experience in that field, so, could you give me some recommendations? And Charlie was more than willing to give recommendations. He said, Scott, I think you have what it takes personality-wise and caring-wise, just from the short time I've spent with you. But here's what I would recommend you do. I would recommend you go and get your nursing home administrator's license. And then you become a nursing home administrator. And all through that, the next years, let's keep in touch every so often. So we had a much longer meeting than that, but that was the gist of the story. So that's exactly what I did. I pursued the nursing home administrator's license, working locally at a for-profit community here, or building. Got my licenses, my federal and my state license, and then they immediately assigned me one of their buildings, a 180-bed skilled nursing center in Lakeland. I was living in Sebastian, which I have been for years now. So I spent the first month in Lakeland and come home on weekends. And then I would commute most of the time because my kids were at an age where I didn't want to miss everything that was going on in their life. And I did that for 15 months with that company until they had a closer building that was in Port St. Lucie, so I was able to transfer to it. All along, once a year, twice a year, I would touch base with Charlie, or he would reach out to me saying, how are things going? It's via email, and we would chat that way. And then in my 5th year, when I was still in Port St. Lucie, I'd been there 3 years, Charlie reached out, we touched base, and he said, I may have an opportunity for you. And I said, well, that's great. You know, where would it be? And he said, at Indian River Estates, which is right down the street from my home, obviously. And I said, I'd love that opportunity. So I came and met with George and Charlie and probably went through a couple more interviews, I imagine. But it was wonderful. They offered me the position of the executive director, which I had up until, 2 weeks ago. And I loved every minute of it. So that's kind of I feel like I've been brought home. And I'm not quite to where Charlie was 12 years ago, but I'm getting closer. But it's been great. So to be given this opportunity along with Erilyn Hicks, I think Erilyn will probably tell you a little bit about our history pre-Acts, because we knew each other before Acts. So I hope she does. But I knew what kind of person she was, and I'll just tell you that I strongly pursued her for the administrator job at Willowbrook Court, which she earned and was given. And I was very much for her being promoted with me because I know how well we can work together. But what a great group of residents that we'll have the opportunity to work with. And a dedicated and hardworking and some tenured staff that is just amazing. We've got a great team here. I've been to several communities, most recently Westminster Village. They want to get to where we are team-wise, and they will, but it takes some time. But I feel so honored to be part of this team and leading this team. I cherish each and every opportunity I have to interact with you all. Like Jim, I think, had mentioned relationships, right, Jim? Relationships. I mean, that's what I think this is all about. I tell our team that if we can get you all to feel that we love and care for you, truly do, we can get away with a lot of small mistakes because you will forgive us immediately. And oftentimes, I have residents that come to me and say, you know what, we really shouldn't have put you in that position to make the mistake we made. And I said, no, we made the mistake, and I apologize for that. But they know that we care for you immensely. And that's what my goal is going to be, to keep instilling that in the youngsters, which I think you all love, because you feel like they care for you and want to learn from you. But the whole team, we have bits and pieces of our team that need to get to that point, and they're not there yet. But we need you to be able to trust us, that we're going to do what we say we're going to do, that we're going to treat you professionally at all times, which I've got to be honest, I expect from the residents to do with the staff as well, to be professional and caring, just like we need to be at all times. And with that, we're going to do some great things. We're going to, once we get past coronavirus, I see us having a lot of fun. And I want to get the family feel back to where Indian River State. When we were two communities, I've often heard that, each community felt closer to their management and leadership team. It was easier. You had, half as many residents to get to know and staff to get to know. But we can get there with this team. I think you'll see me at Erilyn's office quite often, working at her table while she's working at her desk, and her at my office quite often. Ever since Erilyn came on board, I wanted to introduce her to as many independent living residents as I could. I mean, I had a plan in my mind that she would be promoted at some point, so I had her speak at a lot of the ASA director meetings. I had her come to the events. She often wanted to, obviously. I didn't have to ask her much, but I think it's so important that every management level has opportunity to interact with staff. So I foresee a lot more resident and staff gatherings when we can do that safely. Fun stuff, competitions like John said. If it's staff against residents, I don't see us letting you win unless you beat us. So, but you may beat us, but it will be competitive. And I just see so many great things coming. And I could go on and on forever, but from the deepest part of my heart, I just want to thank you all. And go ahead, Jim. Did you want to say something? Why don't you use that one, just because I've been using this one.
Okay. I was curious, now that you've been on the job for 2 or 3 weeks, what's the biggest difference between being the executive director and the campus executive director?
Great question from Jim, and I'll repeat it, Jim. I think it should be on the recording. So I think the biggest difference thus far has been the different departments that I'm now overseeing. Culinary I have overseen East when I was here for quite some time, but now it's both East and West. And obviously, as we all know, culinary is challenging in all of communities like this. So that's been a big thing. The security department is something I haven't overseen in the 7 years, but now I'm delving into that and the staffing and things of that sort. So I think it's more the department. It's not the resident interaction in any form or fashion. I mean, when Erilyn's able to go full-time into her executive director position, I'll have less interaction probably with West residents, although I will continue to see them whenever I can. But it's still learning the ins and outs and where we are, learning the coronavirus and the protocols that we're following as a campus. Slightly different. Westminster Village was much smaller. So I had, often multiple time interactions daily with the nurse practitioner. She would come in, I would go to her office. This is just a much bigger campus, so it'll take some time getting used to, but I'm so thankful that I know so many residents. I don't have to go through that learning curve, and I have so many relationships with so many residents that, you all have given me the opportunity to get comfortable. I haven't gotten there yet with my new position before you come and hand me a list of items that I'll follow up with, but I really appreciate that, but please be willing to come down anytime. Anytime I'm not in a meeting, I'm available to you, as I am to my team. So that's a great question, though. Thank you, Jim. Any other questions before I hand it off to our new executive director? So now I'd like to hand it off to Erilyn Hicks, our new executive director. So please help me welcome her.
I sanitize my hands.
I'll put this one for George. He can't get anything.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. How are you? Just a couple of words, and I first want to start by saying thank you so much for coming out to see us. We do appreciate it. I recognize several faces that make me smile. You'll be able to see this smile more often once the mask mandate has gone away. I do want to say that I did hear what Chuck said. And I am hoping that you won't see the amount of turnover that you have seen in the last few years. My commitment is to be here for as long as Scott and George and the ACTS organization will allow me to. I do appreciate this opportunity. I want to say a few things about my last 4 years experience leading the team at Willowbrook Court. They have done a phenomenal job. And I know a lot of times, I get the recognition, but without all of their efforts and dedication and commitment to not just us as a team, but the residents here at Indian River Estates, none of what we've been able to accomplish in the last 4 years would have been possible. And I want everyone here in the room and everyone watching on television to know that we absolutely love Indian River Estates. We appreciate that we have been given the opportunity to feel wanted in your most vulnerable times and be able to deliver that service that you expect. I am here only because, well, it's not only, I absolutely love what I do. I love coming to work. Even with the most recent challenges, I love coming to work. But I have a heart of service. And without that, without having the heart of service and the ability to carry out things that will make a difference to you as residents here is absolutely necessary. You can't do this job and do it successfully without having a heart of service. All that we do is serve one another. So I appreciate you giving me the opportunity the last 4 years to do that in the capacity and the role in which I was. And I appreciate you giving me this warm welcome and encouragement to be the absolute best executive director that I know how to be. One of the things that Scott did talk about, I wasn't gonna mention our past, but since he he brought it up, I will. Scott and I worked together for quite some time when we were in the for-profit world. I had a different role than I do now. I was a regional, traveled throughout the states of Florida and Georgia doing training for the staff for state and regulatory requirements surrounding reimbursement. Well, Scott was an administrator at one of those buildings that fell within my region. So I got to know Scott quite well. And ironically enough, he did his administrator in training at one of the buildings in the general community in which I ended up being the nursing home administrator. So while there, and Scott was here at Indian River Estates, of course, our paths crossed. And then there was an opportunity here. To be frank, I used to drive past Indian River Estates every single morning to get to 37th Street. I won't mention where I worked. Most of you in here may know. But I used to drive past Indian River Estates and look at the sign and say, that looks like a nice place. Not really knowing the depths in which, it really is a nice place. So fast forward, there was an opportunity here. I really wasn't looking to leave where I was because that particular company was the company by which I came to Florida in the first place. So I was comfortable. But in that time, I gave it some thought. Scott reached out to me. I said, well, what would it hurt? What would it hurt to just visit and have the conversation? Well, I met with Scott and the team at the time that was there, along with a meeting with George, and they pretty much sealed the deal. And I was ready to leave. It was really, really hard, but one of the best decisions that I've made, I think, not just in my career, but personally. One of the things that every year I kind of pick a word to motivate me. And I've kind of held on to one particular word, even though I picked several words, one particular word that is really near and dear to my heart. And that word is purpose. I have purpose when I wake up in the morning. I have purpose when I walk through those doors to serve you and the residents here and the staff here. And I don't ever want to lose that purpose. That's what feeds me. That's what I thrive on. So we will have more fun in the coming future, hopefully, and I'll try not to be so visibly competitive, but that's really hard. But I'm looking forward to that time whenever it comes. It gives me purpose. So thank you again for welcoming us, and I have a hand up for a question.
Similar to the question I asked Scott, but a little bit different. Why are you looking forward to being executive director instead of Willowbrook Court administrator? In other words, what didn't you like and what are you looking forward to now?
The list is long. That's a loaded question. Now that COVID is in the picture, what didn't I like? I didn't like all of the regulatory changes. They come hard and they come fast. We have a great support team in ACT's corporate staff, along with RHS Resident Health Services. There are a huge amount of state, local, federal regulations that impact a nursing home administrator. And the core of that will always be me. You will never let go of that because I've been doing it, for so long. You'll never let go of it. And it's really hard to get an administrator's license anyway. So not something that I want to let go. But in the more recent, not even past, recently, it has been very, very difficult to see people at their most vulnerable state, to witness so much loss in such a short time. That I won't miss. That I won't miss. My hope is to build new, fresh, exciting, long-lasting relationships with residents that don't have to reveal themselves in their most vulnerable state. That's what I'm looking forward to.
I plan to be here 20 years.
Okay. All right, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
And I'd like to thank you both for sharing. I think it's clear why we should be excited about the leadership now that we have overseeing Indian River Estates between Sparky and Erilyn. and their I'll struggle with that, Scott. It's Scott. But their professional poise and experience will come to bear. You know, their knowledge of the campus really helps me tremendously, and you as well. There's a big learning curve to joining a new organization and recruiting from the outside. That's what we spend a lot of time doing, is just bringing those professionals that have the background, but bringing them up to speed with our culture and expectations and the way we do things. So we have that covered. We have, between Scott and Erilyn, many years of professional experience that are going to and have come to bear immediately. So I do want to thank you. I again apologize I can't be there. You know, the one good thing about that is I didn't miss the cake today. So we'll have to do this again and have an occasion where we can gather, hopefully soon, and spend time with Scott and Erilyn. But I want to thank you for joining us today. Thank the associations of both East and West and the representatives from FLICR, which are a key part of the success for senior living in Florida and helping seniors be represented. I want to thank you for those words, Mr. Lutz, and your support. And I look forward to my next trip there to see you. Have a wonderful afternoon, everyone. You know how to track me down if needed, but you're in great hands with Scott and Erilyn. Thank you very much, and thank you both, Scott and Erilyn, for your dedication, and I'm looking forward to your leadership on the Indian River Estates campus. Thank you.